and welcome to the Gothic Unicorn. Today we're going back to Dead End and beginning another 1/48 scale build with another kit from Petite Properties. So let's get on with it. If you saw my last video when I was making some 1/48 scale furniture, you'll know that the next property I'm going to build is Hangmans Halt. Now, as I said, this is from Dead End, and I'm looking forward to it. It's different, but it's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So, I've already opened the kit, as you can see, because I've got the instructions here, and I've checked off all the parts. It's always important to do that, and I've marked them all off on the nice handy dandy list on the instructions. So now I'm ready to get started. The first thing it tells you to do is to actually decorate the interior. So that's what I'm going to make a start with. I'm going to be putting paint in the attic and the ground floor, but I do want to add some paper to the first floor room. So I need to get that sorted, and I need to do some floors. The first steps in the interior decoration has been to put the paint on. I've put the paint on for the attic and the ground floor. I have also done the paint for the ceilings. I've done it this time. I've remembered before I start on the floors. So that's the painting done. That is 2 coats of a sand coloured acrylic paint. It's got a slightly dingy kind of look to it already, but I will be aging it, distressing it a bit in due course. Now I've marked out the space where my wallpaper is going to go, and my wallpaper is going to be some of this scrapbooking paper. It's a sort of kind of vintagey sort of look, but it's very clean, so I've aged it. I've aged as much as I need. I don't need the full strip of this one. I've used a distressing in tea dye. You could use actual tea or coffee to distress it, but I like this because it doesn't actually damage the paper, whereas something wetter would. This is going to be stuck into place between the bits of paint, and then I've got to work on the floors. I'm not sure what I'm doing for the floors. I'm not sure if I'm going with making floorboards again. Not sure yet, but I am at least this far along. The floors are done and they're ready to go in the house now. What I actually did is I used some 160 GSM cardstock, cut to size, and then I have scored it and coloured it. The ground floor I've gone with tiles again, and I went with this sort of orangey colour because I wanted them to look like the sort of traditional orangey red tiles that we get sometimes in buildings. It's not an even colour, even coverage of colour, but I like that because I am going to dirty it up at some point, so that will work with that. And then for the upper floors, I've gone with floorboards again, just scored in and then coloured with a warm grey alcohol marker, which has got this sort of browny tone to it. And again, I've got a variety of colour. All 3 of these have been treated to a thin coat of matte Mod Podge. This is just to protect it so that nothing runs when I add the watered down paint for distressing. So with those done, I'm ready to start putting the house together, and obviously this is the fun bit, at least in my opinion. Hopefully you'll feel the same. I have also, I don't know if I mentioned this, painted the ceilings, the underneath of the floors. I remembered. A little bit late, but I remembered. And yeah, it's all ready to go. I've got the instructions just out of shot, and you start off with the back. It is the back because the front is the removable bit. I have to remind myself quite a lot. And with one of these floor pieces, this is obviously the ground floor. My mind is not with it today. I do apologise. It's actually taken me quite a while so far to get to this stage, for a number of reasons, all real life. Now, I need to apply some glue to this tab, and I'm going to do that on both sides, because I want to make sure it stays in place. And we put this into the bottom hole, obviously, as it's the bottom ground floor, and that needs to be supported at 90 degrees. Now, I don't think I've got much in the way of excess glue on the visible side. Oh, there's a little bit there, which is really, really nice. And we will take that out of the way. And I will just tidy up a little bit on this side, even though it won't actually be visible. Now, I need to allow this to dry before I can start on the next bit. So I'm just going to leave that for a few moments. This glue does dry quite quickly, but the instructions remind you to wait when you're gluing anything together. Patience is definitely a virtue when working on these miniature pieces. It's just a shame that I quite often forget. With the glue on these two pieces set, it is time to attach the first side piece. Now, checking the instructions, I need to apply adhesive around this side, so that's what I'm going to do. It's a bit tedious, I know, watching somebody applying glue. It's almost as good as watching somebody waiting for paint to dry in real time. Or even watching somebody painting something big in real time. There is so much where the magic of editing has to come into play, and you have to just show the bits that people really need to see. So I'm going to attach my second piece now, and I have already had this together with the dry fitting and everything fitted nicely, and that should do that. And if I just I'm just going to clean off the glue on the back side so that I feel able to turn it over and put it onto that side and just clean up the glue down the inside. Now, I did have an elastic band around here to hold this all in place while it dries, but typically elastic bands in this house grow legs and walk. I have my suspicions as to where it has walked to, so I'm going to have to sit and hold it for a while. If I hold it in the middle, that seems like my best bet. But as you can see, I've now got a corner, and it is a structure that will actually be self-supporting once it's dry. I'm not going to try it yet. So I'm going to leave this again to just dry off, and then I'll be back to put in the upper floors. With this put together, obviously I've got to put these other floors in, and the way to do that is to do it in order: first floor, middle, and then the attic floor, top. I know this is sort of at a funny angle for you, but it's the best way that I can do it so that you can see what's going on, I hope, and I can actually get to it to work. So I've got the floor that I'm going to put in next, and the instructions tell me to apply glue to the tab and to the side. Now, I've just got to remember to apply it to the right side, because I have been known to glue the wrong side and then wonder why things don't work. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has done little tricks like that. So it's that side, and run a bit of glue down there, and actually I can stick that bit of flooring back down at the same time because it's rising up. Now then, hopefully this will all go together really, really nicely, and I can get my little cocktail stick and push that bit of flooring in that back corner and clean up the glue from the inside. Now my glue is already going rather tacky, and so it's being a bit better behaved than what it does when it's runny, in that it sort of stays in lumps and it doesn't get everywhere. So that's another floor in. We just got to repeat that process with the attic. I repeated the process with the attic floor and got in a right mess because I had to get some fresh glue and it was a lot runnier. As I often say, working on this scale, cleaning up is imperative. You can't leave those little bits of glue because they're just really noticeable because the pieces are so small. But a little bit of cleaning up and you can make it all okay. So I'm turning this over because we're going to apply the other side. Now, as you can see, it does already stand up on its own, and it's a bit wobbly, but it stands up. Now I need to apply glue to all of these external pieces, all of these little edges, and I'm hoping I've got enough on my piece of card. We shall see. You don't actually need a lot of glue. This is one of these occasions where less is more, but you need it to be spread about because you want everything to fit properly. Yes. So if I go up the back of here, we will get this, I'm hoping, perfectly. Now the other side, so right, I've just looked at this and I was convinced that I decorated the wrong side. I haven't, I've had it put together. I did a dry fit. which is always a good idea to do a dry fit so you can mark where your paper and paint will need to go. But like I said, I'm having one of those days. So that just fits into place nicely, and I just need to go around it and remove any excess glue. On the back it's quite easy because I can use my finger, but inside I'm going to have to just move this and try and dispose of it with a cocktail stick, but there was only that one little bit, which is phenomenal. So I'm going to put that on that side, and again, this is time to let it dry. I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to check what's next. Just before we move on to the next part of the instructions, which is actually preparing the doors and the windows for the front, I'm just going to pop the front into place, and that fits on like that. And you can see I've got my basic building. Obviously the outside needs painting, it needs, well, everything. But we've got a basic building. You can see the structure, you can see the size, you can get an idea of where it's going. Well, hopefully. Now, there's quite a bit of detail to go on the outside of this one. So I'm going to pull out the pieces for the doors and windows, and we're going to have a look at painting them or something. I have pulled out the door and windows, and this one is quite straightforward because there are two windows on the first floor, and then there are the doors, it's a double door on the ground floor. Now I just need to check, I think they should go that way up. I think that's how they should go. I need to check on the picture. These work really simply in that you layer them up. There is actually acetate to go with them as well, but I will show you how these go together once they're painted. You paint it, you do it like that. I think it's like that, and then hang on. Yes, that goes from the outside, maybe. I need to check. I really need to check. I have read through the instructions, honestly, but yeah, it's been a difficult week, like I say. So I'm going to start painting this lot. When I started painting my first house from Dead End, I pulled out 3 grey paints, and my aim was to use those as the sort of principal colours, but mix them around so that it wasn't that all the houses were the same colour, same shade, etc. 3 paints only gives you so many variations though. But for this one I'm going to use my darkest grey. I think that's my darkest grey. I will check before I start painting. Use my darkest grey for the woodwork, the windows, shutters, door, etc. And then I'm going to use the medium grey for the outside of the building, and I'm going to use the light grey on the roof. I think that's how I'm going to do it. Yeah, that sounds right. So I'm going to check the paint and start painting. Now, you will need, painting this sort of thing, a very fine brush. I've got these really nice actual artists' brushes that I've got courtesy of my in-laws, and they're supposed to be used for watercolours. I'm using them with acrylic. As long as I don't let it dry on there, it seems to be working quite well. And I'm going to try giving that a go, because what I did with it last time, it worked really, really well. They're really expensive brushes normally, but you know, when you get them given you, you use them. So yes, I'm going to figure out which bits of which I need to paint and get on with that. I gave a coat of paint to all the relevant bits, the doors, the windows. I've also done the balcony railing and the trim. Now all of this needs at least another coat before I can start sticking it together. So while I wait on that, I am going to start putting some paint on the outside of the house. I figure that's a good place to continue with. So I'm going to paint the outside that I've built, and I'm probably going to put a first coat onto the front. Now the front I'm going to paint inside and outside with the same colour. I'm not worrying about decorating the inside because you don't see it. It's removed so you can see inside, so I'm just going for the easy option. Yeah, painting all this was a bit of a nightmare. It looks great when it goes together, but painting all the edge bits on windows is quite a job, and I can see bits picking it up that I've missed. So I'm going to have to go back to that, but we'll do something a bit easier for the moment. The first coat is on, and I just wanted to show you that it doesn't always look very good. I have just painted this straight onto the MDF, and the MDF just sucks up the paint. So unless you use some kind of sealing primer, you always get this very blotchy effect on the first coat. You know, if you do it and it happens to you, it's not anything to be scared of. I have actually filled in some of the gaps on the back using some glue just to smooth it off a bit, and that's why the edges are a bit messy. I'll tidy that up before I put another coat of paint on, and it's also why where I've done that the paint is still a bit wet, a bit wetter. It's not drying as fast, but yeah, it's time to leave this to dry, and then I will give it a second coat and come back to you. Everything has now had 2 coats of the soft grey, which is the colour I'm putting on the outside, but it is taking forever to dry. I can only assume that the humidity level is high today because it's warm, but it's not drying particularly well. As you can see on the inside piece there, there's still a wet bit, and that was painted a good 25 minutes ago. I've actually been hanging on, hoping that things would dry, but they're not going very well. So the outside of the house could still use a third coat, especially the sides. I think it's this side that will actually be visible when I do the final street layout. Yeah, that's designed to be the end one, so that side definitely needs some more paint. The outside, that one probably needs some more paint. It appears to have something all over it that I'm not sure what it is. It's fantastic, but that needs another coat anyway. Really careful because everything is still tacky. And then obviously the front bits just are not taking the grey paint. I'm afraid this paint is not a patch on the stuff I used to be able to buy. I buy this from the range here in the UK, and it is their own art studio brand, and it's not good. The level of pigment that is in there, and I have shook the bottles before I've put paint out on my palette, but it's not covering the sandy colour. I've got to touch up the sandy colour on that ceiling because the paint's run. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch up the sand, and I'm going to go around this edge with some black. Hopefully if I go around with the black it will actually look better than it does at the moment. So that's my next step, is to do that. I can report that the not drying is the paint. That bit is still looking a bit wet, and I've been sticking to the sides, which have been done for ages, longer than that, and yeah. So I have touched up my ceilings, and I have been around the outside with the black, and it looks better already. I know it still needs touching up in a few places, but it's a lot better than it was with the grey, and that is fantastic. I actually think I'm going to leave this video here. I am running out of time to film this one, and everything's going wrong. So hopefully when I come back to this, which I will, it will be looking a bit better. I will get the extra coat done on the outside and on that bit, and we'll be ready to put the windows together and start actually putting the front together, which will be fantastic, because that's when you'll actually start to see the real character of this property, and it'll stop being just a box, and it'll start being Hangmans whatever it is. I can't even remember what I'm doing. Hangmans Halt. Oh dear. Yeah, definitely time to call this video a day. If you've enjoyed this video, in spite of all my little issues I've had with it, please like, comment and subscribe. It isn't always like this. Maybe even ring that notification bell so you can see when I do upload, normally on a Friday, but I don't promise anything. Real life does get in the way. And yeah, you can come back hopefully and see how this goes and see it come together as a perfectly spooky little house. Till next time, bye.